What's up, world? Welcome back to my channel. So one, let me start out by saying I am catching a cold or coming down with a cold, so if I don't sound like myself today, that is why. Two, I should let you know I apologize for not posting more videos recently. In the past 2 weeks, I have been traveling quite a bit for work and personal reasons, and that is the reason why I haven't posted. 2 weeks ago, I posted 2 videos in 1 week, and what I should have done was hold off on one video and post one for you last week, so it wasn't such a big gap in between videos. But that's the reason why I haven't been posting, so I apologize. But one of the reasons why I was traveling is the subject of the video for today, and that is because I was running in the Disney Princess Half Marathon. And this video is all about my experience in the Disney Princess Half Marathon. If you should be so inclined to participate in one of the Run Disney events in the future, this might be helpful for you. If you have no interest in running in a Run Disney event, then you probably want to skip through this video because that is going to be what this is all about. Let's get right into it. So the race cost me $175 to register. I registered for the race in June or July of 2015. It took place over the weekend, about the third weekend of February, and the actual race was on the 19th. You start out the race outside of Epcot Center. It's a lot of running on the road, and then about halfway through, a little less than halfway through, you enter the Magic Kingdom, and then it's road running again until the very end of the race where you enter Epcot, and then the race is over in the parking lot of Epcot. The Disney Princess Half Marathon race filled up extremely quickly, so I just registered for another race through Run Disney. It is the Disneyland Half Marathon. That registration had been open for weeks and hadn't filled up, so it was really easy for me to register for that race, unlike this one where registration was full within a matter of hours, and it was extremely difficult to register for the race. I mean, I was at work constantly clicking refresh because there were so many people just bombarding the website to try and get in and register. So my first bit of advice would be, once you know when the date of registration opens, which it's posted online, it will be advertised in running magazines. I highly suggest that you have planned out in your head that you're going to sit on the computer and just constantly refresh your screen until it lets you move in. And it will eventually let you move in if you're one of those people who's like on the website as soon as registration opens, but you have to be really dedicated to just kind of continuously hitting refresh on your computer, or you will not be able to participate. Now, some of the other Disney Princess branded runs over the course of that weekend, you may still be able to get into, but my understanding just from my experience is that the half marathon is the most coveted race to sign up for. Over the course of that weekend, there is a kids run, which is a 1 mile run. I think that's only open to children between a certain age because it's only 1 mile, and it's like meant to be a fun little race for them to sort of get their feet wet in long distance running. There is a 5K, which is 3.1 miles. There is a 10K, which is about 7 miles, and then there is the half marathon. Now, one thing that you can do, Disney sets up all these sort of challenges for you if you're so inclined to participate. So over the weekend, there was also a challenge where you could sign up for the 10K on Saturday and the half marathon on Sunday, and you would get an additional medal. So at the end of the race, you do get a medal. I will insert a picture of the medal so you can see it. If you participate in one of these additional challenges, you also get a medal. So on top of the one that I just mentioned, where you can run on both Saturday and Sunday, there was an option for what's called a coast-to-coast medal, where if you participate in a Disneyland and Disney World half marathon race or marathon race within the same year, you can also get the coast-to-coast medal, which is what I want to do and why I signed up for the race in Disneyland taking place in September. So Disney has all these little challenges. You can also win the Coast to Coast medal if you participate in a race in Disneyland or Disney Paris. That's not realistic for me, but maybe for some of you out there, it's something that you might be interested in doing, especially if you're already planning a trip to Europe or to France in the future. Once you land in the airport in Orlando, you may or may not see people who are going to participate in the race, but on the way back to wherever you're coming from on Monday, you will definitely see a ton of people in the airport wearing their medal, wearing the t-shirt that the race gives you. And it's a really, really cool feeling to know that you participated in this thing that so many other people didn't participate in, and it sort of builds camaraderie with the people that you're traveling back with. So that's a really cool feeling. Once you get into Disney property, one of the things that you have to do is you have to attend the Race Expo to pick up your bib and your race packet. It also comes with a t-shirt. It's a really nice t-shirt. Everything that you get in your packet is just really cute because it's Disney, so it's really nicely branded and marketed and adorable. And the Race Expo is a lot of fun. It's full of vendors who are catering to runners' needs. So they're selling kit tape and they're selling fun tank tops and clothing that you can wear during your race. They're selling all kinds of gear that will help you as a runner, whether it's in this race or it's in your training for future races. And it is a lot of fun. There's a ton of people there, and the expo is taking place pretty much from about 9 or 10 a.m. in the morning until the afternoon, up until the day before the half marathon. So even on the days of the 5K and the 10K, you can still go to the expo, pick up your stuff and shop. It's mandatory to go to the expo to pick up your bib. So even if you're like, well, I don't really want to buy anything, you still have to go just to pick that stuff up. The day before the race, you want to get a good night's sleep, so I recommend going to sleep early, even if it's much earlier than you normally do. My original plan was to go to sleep at 7:30 that night, but I ended up actually going to sleep around 8:30. You also want to make sure that you eat a really carb-loaded breakfast, because if you're like me, you won't have time to eat anything really in the morning. The race starts really, really early. They ask that you be at your corral, which I'll explain corrals in a minute, around 4:30 in the morning, if not earlier. So it's really important that you get enough sleep and that you eat a really good dinner, because it's going to be difficult for you, again, if you're like me, to eat anything the morning of, especially because I am from Orlando, but I don't live in Orlando anymore. So it's not like I had readily available food that I would normally eat before I run for training. The night before the race, I had a Denny's Grand Slam, which normally I would not eat. It's not the healthiest thing, but it was the most sort of carb intensive thing that I had access to / that I wanted, so that was what I ate. Another thing I highly recommend is laying out all your stuff the night before the race so that it's easier for you to just jump into all your clothes or put on whatever it is that you're wearing that day. I had everything laid out the night before. I'll insert a picture of the way everything looked when I had it laid out. It's just easier because you are getting up so early, and to avoid having to get up earlier than you would anyway to pin on your bib and to rifle through your suitcase or whatever the case is. It's just, I found it really easy to have everything laid out the night before, and then that morning I woke up at 3 a.m. and I was out the door by 3:15. I showered the night before, so I wasn't disgusting. I just kind of dove into my clothes and that was it. Something that I did first thing in the morning when I woke up too was I put on some fun, like, pump me up sort of music. Not that I really needed it because I was so hopped up on adrenaline to begin with. I was like really, really excited. I was kind of anxious. I'd never run a half marathon before, and I was feeding off of that energy, which is also good when you're actually running through the race. You need that energy to kind of keep you up. But I had the music to sort of get me pumped up. So one thing I really recommend, if you can afford it, it's Disney in general is expensive, but if you can afford it, I recommend to stay at a Disney hotel versus a hotel elsewhere in the area, or even a non-Disney hotel on Disney property. So while I was there for the race, I was staying at the Hilton Orlando Lake Buena Vista, which is on Disney property. It's right across the street from Disney Springs, which used to be called Downtown Disney, but that's a whole other story. And it was a fine hotel. It was, you know, everything was fine about the hotel specifically, except for the fact that because it was a non-Disney hotel, regardless of the fact that it was on property, there was no shuttle to take you to the race. And the race is definitely not walking distance from any of the hotels that are in the front part of the Disney property area. There's no sidewalks or anything like that. It would be extremely difficult, even if you were staying at a hotel that was like theoretically right next door, it would be really difficult for you to get to the race without one of these provided Disney shuttles. So what I ended up having to do was walk into Disney Springs, which was closed at that point because it was 3:15 in the morning. I got totally lost because the hotel told me the wrong place to go. I ended up having to ask some random like maintenance men in the middle of the night where I needed to go, and thank goodness they were nice enough to put me on the right track. But in the middle of the night, it can be kind of scary or intimidating to just be walking around this place. Like there's no people, or the people that are there are like workers, or you can't really discern what so anyway, I don't mean that to say that Disney is unsafe in any way, but in the middle of the night, it's challenging. So I had to walk to the closest Disney resort to catch the shuttle, and it would just be easier if you were already staying at a Disney resort. So when I go to Disneyland for the race in September, I am going to be staying at a Disney resort, even though it might be cheaper for me to stay at a non-Disney hotel, just because the ease of it. And I had a little bit of added luck on my side because I am from Orlando, and so I knew the area. Even though I obviously didn't live in Disney, I had been there multiple times, and I knew for the most part the area that I was going to be going through. Versus Anaheim, I've never been to Disneyland before, and I've never been to Anaheim, California before, so I'm at a slight disadvantage. So that's another reason why I will definitely be staying at a Disney hotel when I go there. The race is what it is. It's 13 miles, 13.1 miles. It is mostly a road race, which is sort of misleading given that you're meant to think when you're signing up for the race that you're gonna be in Disney or Epcot most of the time. That's just not the case. You're in Disney, depending on your speed, for about 5 minutes, maybe, it's definitely not 10 minutes, maybe 7 minutes. And you're not running through the entirety of the park, you're running through a small chunk of it. You're running down Main Street USA, which is the very front of the park before you get to the castle, which is straight ahead. And you're not running through the castle until you've sort of made a loop around. So you're not running straight through, you cut down towards, into Tomorrowland and then loop back around. Again, you're only in the park for maybe 5 minutes. You're not really going deep into it. Epcot, you're in even less time. You don't go through, which in my mind, that's sort of what I always thought, was that I was going to be going through the countries and no, you're going into Epcot for a very short period of time, making a loop around, and they have it coned off so you don't go into the park too much, and then coming back down by the big globe. I used to call it a big golf ball when I was a kid, and then cutting through into the parking lot, and that's where you finish. So your time in the actual parks is very limited. I mean, it's still really cool, and I still highly recommend participating in one of these races, but I don't want you to go into it thinking like you're running through the park the whole time, because that's just not the case. Along the way, there are characters that you can stop and take pictures with. There are really long lines at the character line, especially the longest line that I saw was for Belle and Beauty and the Beast. Belle from Beauty and the Beast and the Beast. That line was really, really long. I didn't stop and take any pictures with any characters just because I was constantly worried about my time and where in the race that I was falling. So I don't have any pictures to insert. It wasn't towards the very end of the race that I realized exactly where I was, or, you know, I sort of could breathe a sigh of relief because I knew I wasn't at the very end, which I think is just natural unless you know that you're a really fast runner. For me at least, I was like, oh, I must be towards the end, and I really wasn't. So I never participated in taking any pictures with characters. If I had it to do again, I still don't know that I would, because there weren't any characters that I was like, oh my gosh, I have to take a picture with this. There just wasn't. I was really focused on just running, and once I don't know about anyone else, but once my legs warm up, I really don't want to stop running because it starts to become uncomfortable to restart all over again. And there are already places in the race, like running through Disney in certain parts, where depending on what corral you're in, you are going to be, there's just so many people that you end up slowing down, and sometimes slowing to a walk because there's just so many people and things bottleneck so much that it becomes really difficult for you to continue on. So at 4:30 in the morning, you are put into corrals, and your corral number is listed on your bib. So this was my bib. This was my corral number, L. Or I shouldn't say corral number, corral letter, L. This indicates where in the line of runners you are going to be positioned. L is pretty much right in the middle of everything. If you want to submit time and your time is less than 2 hours and 45 minutes, you have to submit a time from a previous race that you've run. I didn't have a previous race time that I wanted to submit, so I just happened to get L, which I was really comfortable with anyway. It also has to do with when you register, you put in your expected finish time, and I put in my expected finish time was gonna be about 3 hours, and L is where the 3 hour mark, approximately, they have it positioned as. The fastest people are in the very front. They're A, B, C, D, E, F, and so on. And then the slowest people are towards the rear of the race. They do tell you to maintain a 16-minute minimum. And at the very end of the line of all the corrals are what's called balloon women. They hold balloons, and they indicate that that is the end of the line. You cannot go past them. If you go past them, or fall behind them rather, you're out of the race, and at the next mile marker you will be picked up by a van and sent to the finish line. You can still collect your medal, but you don't finish the race, and there's no negotiating with them. You just get in the van and you have to go. So that was a major motivator for me to just keep going, because I was like, my fear was that I was going to be picked up by these women and sent to the end of the line, or sent to the beginning of the line, so to speak. So that was one big fear of mine. And the corrals take off with fireworks every few minutes. So that's the indicator, is the fireworks that another corral has taken off, and the line moves up until you're in the front of the line, or your corral is in the front of the line, and then you take off into the race. The end of the race was really emotional for me. This was something that I never thought I would be able to do in my wildest dreams. And I hadn't been running that long. It hasn't even been a year since I've been running, so the fact that I'd signed up for this half marathon was sort of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I'm doing this. So I ran across the finish line. Just over 3 hours it took me to finish, and I cried when I got across. I just couldn't help it. I was so happy that I did it, because I kind of just, like I said, I never thought I would be able to. And this was just proof to myself that if I set my mind to something, I can really do almost anything. So it was a really proud moment for me. At the end of the race, one thing I will say is I didn't feel like there were enough water stations. You're really dehydrated at that point. There are water stations along the race route, but you don't want to drink too much water or you get a cramp. So at the end, I have run races before where it seems like there's just more water available to you. And I was really, really thirsty at the end. They do give you like a snack box of food to refuel, which is fine, but I just felt like there could have been more water, and maybe there was and I just wasn't in the right area. But I was sort of delirious by the end of the race, and it felt like I was being like corralled again into to walk towards a certain area, and the area that we were walking I didn't feel like had any water. So if you train with one of those the water bottles that you can strap into your hand, then you should be okay if you have an extra bottle, and then you can still depend on the one that you brought with you. But if not, if you have anyone waiting for you at the end of the race, just ask them to bring water for you, because you will be really thirsty and you'll want to replenish quickly. Another thing that happened to me at the end of the race was my hip flexors were really, really, really sore. Like I could barely walk by the end of the race. So one thing I recommend is if in your training you notice that you have issues with your hip flexors, which I did, and in a moment of really not smartness, I did nothing about it, you should learn exercises how to stretch those out, which I have since done. So my last bit of advice about the race is don't do anything the day of the race that you haven't done in training. Try to stick to get it all out before you actually go to Disney for the run. Because if you start doing something that day and you use a new pair of sneakers or a new stretching technique, or you start to use goo, which is a jelly kind of liquidy pack of stuff, which they do hand out during the race, that is like essentially pure sugar, and it's supposed to give you a boost while you're running. If you haven't done that before, don't do it on the day of the race, just because you could get sick or it could hurt you or whatever, and then you're setting yourself up for failure essentially. That pretty much concludes this video. If you have any questions about the race that I didn't mention, please go ahead and leave them in the comment section below. I'm happy to answer them if I have the answer or if that was part of my experience. I would say all in all, I really enjoyed it. Obviously, I'm doing another one in September, and I'm really excited about it. I also can't wait for the weather to change, because I think I'll be able to practice a lot more than I was able to in the winter, because it was really cold here for the most part. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. As always, if you like this video or found it entertaining or learned something, please go ahead and thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. And until next time, I will see you later, world. Thanks again.